All right, you ready to do this thing?
I mean, shoot, third try, ready as I'll ever be. I think we just, let's send it.
Let's just get through the whole thing.
Wait, are you still sick? Are the vibe checks good?
Vibe's great, baby! Oh, you ready to go, baby? Are you?
All right, let's go. Start the music then.
Hello and welcome to the Net Gains podcast. We are your hosts, Roger Perrin.
And Frank Field.
I'm an ex-CEO, former pro athlete, and father of three.
And I am currently competing on the AVP Pro Beach Volleyball Tour while working at one of Roger's companies.
We discuss how highly successful people train their minds beyond the generic stop being lazy and push harder garbage you're probably used to hearing.
Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow each episode so you can get practical tips on how to build your elite mindset to accomplish some really cool things. Or don't, because we love adversity.
We love adversity, Frank.
Love adversity.
Frank, what are we talking about today?
All right, so episode 1. Today we are talking about narrative forming. So in the pod today, we'll talk about what is narrative forming, when it's good or bad. We'll go through a simple process of how to evaluate that in your life, and then focus on some examples. And the examples should be the longest point of the pod today. So we'll give you a lot of practical ways to kind of look at this process. But first, before we get into that, we like to highlight a couple of newsworthy legends. So people who have accomplished some amazing things, breaking boundaries in their lives. And the first one is a guy we found on TikTok, Nate. Sorry, what's his last name?
Freyhofer?
Nate Freyhofer or Freyhofer. Sorry for butchering that, Nate. But we did really like your story. So basically, this guy tried to hit David Goggins' record of 4,100 pull-ups in 24 hours. He did a ton of training, prepped for it, and then around 2,000 reps, he tears his bicep, his wrist and his hand went numb, and then he still did another 1,000 pull-ups on top of that. Ended up finishing around 3,034 reps. But again,
Damn.
He didn't finish it. But the cool thing was he did a lot of content on TikTok afterwards, like just being super open about himself failing. And I think that was the cool piece about it.
Yeah. I think is when I looked into this, the fact that he just finishes the failure, right? Like he failed his goal, and then he just comes back the next day and is like, well, Goggins failed a couple times before he got it, so I'm just gonna get back at it. And then it's just like, I think you said he's like wearing an arm sleeve now and just rehabbing and continue going, right? Like it's awesome.
And that one's like a double whammy too, because I mean we've all been injured as athletes in the past, and it's just like when you take a big loss and you get injured at the same time, those are both like kind of traumatic events, you know. I mean personally, when I've been injured in the past, it's like depression for like 5 days afterwards of like, oh my God, I have to do all this rehab, all this work that I just put in is gone now. And this guy just put in so much work, failed the goal he wanted to hit, and got hurt. And the next day he was like, all right, back on the horse, you know.
Next step, part of the journey.
Yeah.
He also raised a bunch of money for charity too, which is
Cool.
even awesome about it.
Do you know what the charity was? Can we shout it out for all 20 of our listeners?
I don't know the charity. The guy has like 4.5 million followers. I'm sure he's super grateful for our shout out.
He's doing okay.
All right. Next story.
Hold on, before we move on. So he hit 2,000 and then did another 1,000 reps with a torn bicep.
Yeah, dude, beast.
I mean, that's pretty insane, right? His hand was going. I wonder if he was just loaded up on like pre-workout.
I don't know how you do that.
Just smashing ibuprofen.
Yeah, I think he was taking a ton of ibuprofen. I went on the live stream a couple times while he was doing it, and I think he was taking ibuprofen, and he clearly had his like diet and everything dialed in, but it was just crazy. He was like, I can't feel my hand at all, but I'm still going. Like, how are you even gripping the bar?
Yeah, honestly. I mean, that's
how many strict pull-ups can you do in one go?
Well, I was gonna say I got a pull-up bar right behind me over here, and you didn't even talk about it.
Classic.
I could do a lot of strict pull-ups.
I mean, what is a lot to you? 10?
Well, more than you is a lot to me.
You got to give me a number.
Strict. If I was doing, I could probably do 12 to 14 strict pull-ups. So that's like full dead hang up, full dead hang up. That I could do, and I'm talking wide grip too.
I mean, as long as it's strict. Isn't a narrow grip harder?
I don't think so. I feel like if you're going wide, it'd be tougher on the lats, but I guess maybe it'd be less biceps. So maybe you're right. Maybe actually narrow grip is more on the biceps.
I don't know. But either way, I'll do 15.
All right. Well, I knew you were going to say that. I could do more than you in a day, but you know what? I don't even want to get in this argument with you. I think we just settle it. We'll do some kind of content later down the road, and we'll see who can do more pull-ups in a day.
I'm in. Not in a day. In one set.
One set?
One strict set. Yeah.
Okay.
Strict. Proper.
Yeah.
No like humping pull-ups over there.
No, so would that have to be, you'd have to get, like those tough ones in the end, you get your chin over the bar? Or we just
Chin
talking
over
like
the bar.
Chin over the bar?
Lock the elbows. And then
Chin over the bar?
up without a kip or without kipping your body or swinging.
Any time, Roger. Time and place.
All right. Okay. We need to continue the podcast.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right. Next story.
topic.
Yes. Second story of today. This guy, Kevin Ford, worked at Burger King for 27 years without missing a single day of work.
Oh my God.
A single day of work. I don't know how that's possible. Just like giving people like COVID burgers. I don't know how you just.
Oh, true. Yeah. So
not
during
miss a
COVID.
single day. And then, so he went viral. The community donated to him $450,000, and he bought a house. So he was actually able to get a house for himself. It was a really, really cool story. But man, 27 years without missing a day.
That's insane. Good for him. Good for those people that gave him money too. I don't know if like this guy was such a big part of the Burger King community for those people.
I don't know. Yeah, I think he just they might have posted about him, and then it just went crazy.
Yeah, actually, I work for one of Roger's companies. I don't think I've ever missed a day either. Now that I'm actually thinking about it.
That's so wrong. You miss days all the time. I should just cut your pay.
Yeah, let's just say sick days do not go unused in my Rippling account.
Yeah. You think when you put up these away messages like business meeting, I'm like, I know all the people you're training with, yeah. And so I know you're on the beach playing volleyball.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what's funny? Maybe this isn't funny, but I actually had 4 hours left of sick time I didn't use last year. So I don't know. Do I talk to you or HR on that? Do I get paid out on that, or did I just waste 4 hours of not taking my sick time?
If you're supposed to get paid out on it, I'm going to talk to HR and have you not get paid out on it. There's no way I'm letting that happen.
That's fine. I'll just flex some more hours or something, and we'll be okay.
Yeah. You'll be all right.
All right. What do you think? Should we talk about our actual topic for today?
Yeah, I think it's time to jump in. Let's get to it.
Okay. Sweet. So I'll intro this. This was kind of your brainchild for episode 1. And we think that narrative forming and kind of how the brain works through that is such a huge part of pretty much every day of our lives. So you thought this was a really good one to start with for episode 1. So I'm going to turn it over to you to intro what narrative forming is it good or bad, and kind of talk through this process that we made.
Yeah. So I thought it was a super fundamental topic to a mindset podcast, given the fact that it's going to relate to so many other topics that we're going to talk about, whether it be ego or adversity or whatever. And so narrative forming is basically the stories we tell ourselves. As we try to make sense of the world every day around us, we take in information or we feel emotions, and then we create a story off of that. A couple examples are like, my company doesn't appreciate me. Frank sucks at volleyball. I've been doing that's a fact, by the way. I've been doing all the work in my relationship, right? So it spans your career, your personal relationships, your athletics. All day we are crafting stories about what is happening to us and like what's happening in our lives. And then you see this in the media, like in a very toxic way, where they cherry pick facts or stories, and because they have a narrative they want to get across to make people angry, divided, whatever, and vote certain ways. And then they cherry pick facts and stories to tell a specific narrative.
Just to jump in on that, Roger is a libertarian for everybody listening. So,
Oh my God.
we might get some political talk in here at some point, and I'd love to just talk taxes with you. That actually might be episode 2. We just talk about the tax code for 2 hours.
No. I'm a extremist centrist. Is what I try to be.
Extreme center.
Label me. Don't label me.
I love that.
Extremist centrist. That's what I try to be. They just all suck. Anyway, so is narrative forming like a good or bad thing, right? And I think the more broad a narrative is, the worse it is. And the more specific it is, the more helpful or actionable it can be. So like an example could be, my marriage may end up in divorce. And that's like just a really broad narrative that is like, what do you do with that? What do you mean? Like, what are we going to do with that? I've seen it in sports a lot where someone will say like, let's stop the bleeding.
Yeah, you love that.
If they're losing, I can't stand. Yeah, that's like one of my pet peeves is that quote right there. Like, let's stop the bleeding. I'm like, I'm not bleeding. I don't even know what we're talking about here. How can I apply any learnings to that, to anything that I'm doing right now? So instead, something more specific would be like, hey, because Frank is struggling on the court, let's serve him every ball, serve his outside shoulder, and really go after him.
That would
right
happen.
Because that's actionable and is an easy way to get a lot of points. So the point being, the more specific your narrative, the more actionable it can be. So first piece of advice is be skeptical. All the narratives you tell yourself, the narratives you digest from social media, news, wherever, be skeptical of them. And what we want to show today is how we drill down into those and focus on the examples through a simple process. So that process is essentially 4 steps. First is identifying the fact that you're actually telling a narrative to yourself. The second is drilling down to the root cause of that narrative. Like, why am I feeling this way? Why, like, where is this narrative coming from? And then what we'll get into is reframing that narrative into something actionable and positive. And then 4th step is taking action on it. Because once you've figured out what you really want to work on, now you can actually have actionable, simple things that you can focus on when you reframe it. So I say we dive right into examples because that's basically where the fun is and where where all the best learning is, right? Like real life examples.
Yeah. Before we do that, though, I will just take people behind the curtain here of what this podcast was. On Monday, we spent 3 hours discussing this topic, and Roger was trying to explain like what this was over and over and over, and I was trying to figure it out. And it did take us 3 hours to consolidate all of his brain thoughts going in every single direction into this 4-step process. But we did do it. So hopefully this works out for y'all, and we can take it through some examples that make sense.
Yeah. Blessing and a curse.
Yeah. Yeah.
For my mind.
Yeah. All right. So you want me to intro this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So basically, we found an article online. This is from Amy Morin, who is a psychotherapist and best-selling author that was peer-reviewed by Akeem Marsh, who is a board-certified psychiatrist. And basically what they did was went through 6 common narrative forms that people experience during life. So these are all or nothing thinking, blaming, catastrophizing, discounting the positive, mental filters, and then should statements. So we're going to take you through all of these narrative forms and kind of how we would go through this 4-step process to drill down and create actionable results out of that. So the first one is all or nothing thinking. And I think this is actually perfect for you because the example I came up with is I'll never be a good CEO.
Yep.
And as a couple company CEO, I think you can speak to that one.
Yeah. So that's the narrative, right? Is like you're feeling rough about your day. Maybe
let's actually, sorry, let me like reintroduce that. So let's just say your company is struggling for Q1, Q2, whatever it may be. and you're thinking like, dang, like nothing's working. I'll never be a good CEO. I can't scale my company. Go ahead.
Yep. Yeah. So that's your narrative, right? So when we drill down into that, now we're saying, all right, you know what? I feel like I'm disproportionately taking on a lot of work at the company, and I'm always stressed out. But the real problem is I'm having trouble delegating to others, and I'm not trusting my employees. So now I'm drilling down to really, why is the company not scaling, and what are the actual problems, right? Distrust. Why does that distrust exist? And now to reframe that, we're going to say, to be a good CEO, I need to put my employees in a better position to succeed. Maybe I need to do better training, better process, right? Bring on additional resources, and then be willing to delegate and give up control. And this is hits home for me, because it is like, I literally struggle with this problem growing my first company, which was, I'm like, I'm doing everything, right? It was like a narrative that I always told myself. And then I'm like, you know what? That means my process sucks, and I'm not delegating, and I'm a control freak, and I have to give all that up, right? And so the action, now that I, sort of reframe that into that, I need to put my employees in a better position to succeed. Now I could take action on that, which is delegating a task and ignoring the finished product until it's completely finished, right? Like letting people fail and learn in the same way that I had the luxury of doing when I started the company, right? So it's tough to expect other people to get to where you've gotten at the same level of expertise if you don't allow them to fail and learn in the way that you have, right? So that would be an example of all or nothing thinking.
Yeah, and I'll just say, in terms of working for one of Roger's companies, that is something you actually got really good at. I mean, when I started working here a few years ago, you really just kind of threw me into the fire. And you do this with all employees too. You just throw them into the fire, sink or swim. And you do a really good job of providing all the resources to help people sink or swim when they do start sinking, because inevitably, when you throw so much on people's plate, they're going to have trouble. But that's what has led to so much growth in terms of all the employees within the company. Is just you just make them drink through a fire hose and then support them as they do that. So that was probably a really good growth process for you.
Yeah, even in like the interviews I would conduct, I would say, look, we're the type of company that throws you into the fire, but any one of us are willing to jump in the fire with you. Because the fastest way to learn is to just do. And so we want you to learn and become super valuable. Everybody wins in that situation. But I'm not above you in the sense that like I'm not willing to jump in there with you. So that mantra seemed to work really well for that company.
Cool.
So the second one here is blaming. Every time we got on the volleyball court, Frank would blame me.
You'd blame me too. Don't worry. Maybe I did more blaming. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, so that is attributing complex problems to a single cause. So the example here, you want me to jump into the example?
I'll take this one.
And you can reframe it? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is one that I'm sure we've all experienced in our lives, being late to a meeting, right? So this one is more so, I guess it could be a work from home or if you're going to a meeting. But the narrative when you show late to this meeting in your head is, man, if Starbucks had made my coffee faster, I wouldn't have been late to this meeting. And there was probably a complex variety of issues that cause the problem, which is being late to the meeting, but you're attributing all these complex factors into just Starbucks. So if we actually drill down through this problem, it's really not Starbucks that was the issue. Starbucks may have delayed you 2 minutes when they were making your coffee, right? But you snoozed your alarm twice, and that was 15 minutes that delayed you, right? So the the drill down would be, I snoozed my alarm twice. I got up 15 minutes later than I was supposed to. Starbucks was also late, but really it was the getting up late from my alarm that was the root cause of the issue. That's what we're trying to do, is drill down to the root cause of the issue. So the reframe, if I had just gotten up earlier, I would have made my meeting on time. Now we take action. Tomorrow, this is a sample action we could do if this is an issue with snoozing, which I have this issue a lot, I'm going to admit. But my action tomorrow, I'm going to commit to getting up without hitting snooze on my alarm. And a bonus on top of that can be, if I do that, I'll buy myself a fancy coffee when I go to Starbucks again.
Yeah, I love the example here because you actually have a reward system for your mind of like, I get through something that is causing my stress in the morning, and then I have a little bit of a mini reward for myself, right? It doesn't mean you buy yourself a coffee every morning, but what we're trying to do is kickstart the new process of thinking, right? And because what we're talking about here is training your mind to think differently than the toxic narrative we started with.
Yeah, and I think the biggest piece of this formula is the drill down piece too, right? Because if you have a cycle of blaming in your narratives, let's say you're always late to meetings, right? One day it's Starbucks, one day it's there was a lot of traffic on the road, one day it's that I don't know, you couldn't find the right outfit. You're just blaming all these complex issues to a single cause. But we really need to drill down to the root. And this is, again, like we're just trying to make a variety of examples here that could be true or could be not true. In this case, for this specific example, it was the actual alarm and the snoozing of the alarm that's causing the real root cause of the problem. But it could be anything.
Totally. I'm going to get you a David Goggins alarm to just wake you up and start
I
yelling
just saw
at
that
you.
actually. Someone sent me that on TikTok. It was, this is your new alarm. And it was like, Goggins like, all right, you better not snooze that alarm, you blank, blank.
Hello, motherfucker. Do you recognize me? Don't think about going back to sleep. Don't be a little bitch today.
It's like, you're about to be great today.
I love it, man. It's so like hilariously inspiring.
Yeah.
It's like, he's so funny.
You love Goggins, man.
Yeah, I do. I mean, he's just, it's also like, I love it and hate it. Like, I'm not sure I like the just push harder advice for everything, but gosh, he's such a beast, man.
Yeah. All right. So third example, we've gone through all or nothing thinking. We've gone through blaming. Now we have catastrophizing, which is always imagining the worst thing that can happen in any situation. So quick example for that one, AI is going to take all of our jobs.
AI is not going to take all your jobs. That's a tougher example because I think it requires some nuanced thinking. But
who's more equipped to take us through that nuanced thinking than you, Roger?
Oh, geez. Yeah. So AI is going to take all. I'll do it. So
No.
AI is going to take.
All right, go ahead. Yeah, try it.
So AI is going to take all our jobs, right? Like, so you hear people thinking about that, like it's going to take all our jobs, right? So, but if you think, more logically about the situation, what's going to happen in the short term is AI is going to make people a lot more efficient. So we'll just all get more done. And then, sort of like the dawn of the internet, new things will pop up that didn't exist before. So yes, copywriters are having a tough time right now. They're lowering their pricing, but they're pumping out more words. It's just hard to be a writer right now. You see, even like news publications. Yeah, news publications are just like firing staff and whatever they say. That's a tough thing. But prompt engineering did not exist as like a field before, or a service business in going into companies and helping them incorporate AIs into their workflow. Like, right, these types of businesses didn't exist prior. So when you drill down into it, you're like, yeah, it creates new jobs, just like, a professional Fortnite player didn't exist, YouTuber didn't exist before the internet, right? We thought the internet would kill all the jobs. So to me, it gets a little bit scary when AI gets, I lost an earbud there.
Technical difficulties.
There we go.
For everyone not on video, we are on video on YouTube, by the way. And maybe Spotify video too, I think. But yeah, Roger just popped an earbud out of his ear.
Just so much AI talk. Yeah,
so the brain's exploding from the inside out.
Yeah, so I think generally speaking, when you drill down into AI is going to take all our jobs, it's like, yes, that's what the media is going to tell you. That's all the sensationalized stuff that you're going to hear. But, it's going to make people a lot more efficient. We're going to have new job creation that comes from it. The scarier part to me is when it gets incorporated to hardware and then you have like actual robots. That's just like scary in general.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
Wait, can you try to reframe? So the drill down is, all right, so we might lose some jobs, but it opens up new jobs. So what's the reframe there?
Yeah, the reframe would be I'm gonna like learn some new skills If my job is one of the jobs I believe or that I'm seeing is starting to struggle, right? I'm going to be asking my employer, can I learn some new skills here? Like, so for example, we had an employee at Digital Position who like really liked the SEO side of the business. And then he was like, can I learn PPC too? The other side of the marketing work that we do. And so he asked us proactively, can I learn some of these other skills? And coincidentally, he's now the CEO of the company that took over for me.
Shout out. Grant.
Yeah, big shout out to Grant. So yes, I think that's the reframe is, what can I learn to future-proof myself a little bit better and sort of pivot if I need to, and learn it now before my job becomes obsolete, right? And I start, I get cut or something like that.
Cool. I love that. I'm surprised you got through that, actually. I kind of said it as a joke, but I didn't, good job. That's why you have an elite mindset.
Thanks. Yeah, appreciate it.
Do you want to go through
the other example here?
I was going to say it's a good one, I think. So we'll let you take that as well, because this is about marriage, and I'm not married. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I actually brought up this example a little bit earlier, but like my marriage is going to end up in divorce. Like, super toxic narrative. But when you think about a relationship, maybe you haven't had a date night in 3 months. You're working too much, and it sort of feels like two ships in passing. You're not communicating to each other. You're not getting time together. You're not compromising. There's a bunch of different reasons as to why you feel like a marriage can start to break down, right? So the toxic, not actionable narrative is, oh, it's just going to end up in divorce, right? But there's specific things there that you can focus in on. Like, okay, the reframe would be, we both need to put more work into the relationship and prioritize each other from a time perspective, maybe. Right? So then you schedule a date night, you set aside time to have a deep conversation, you do something unexpected for your partner, right? So this is how you take what starts off as a toxic narrative, reframe it down into action and take action on it. And I think, at least what I've found in marriage, generally speaking, is like, if you just can be vulnerable and take the first action, then the reciprocation comes. The hardest part is like just getting started, because both partners can tend to just like finger point and be like, I'm not doing this unless they do this, right? So it's like, it's 10 years of marriage wisdom.
Yeah, you had mentioned scorekeeping being a really big part of it, and that's something that I'm trying to be cognizant of in my relationship too, because there's always going to be uneven scores as you just are in a relationship.
Nothing could ever be 50-50, right? And then once you add in kids and work and much more stress, scorekeeping is just like a very common, tough thing, but it's probably better left for a marriage counseling podcast.
Yeah, true. That'll be our second iteration here. We go from elite mindset to marriage counseling.
Let's not.
No, probably not. The next one is discounting the positive. So ignoring or discounting the good things that might happen to you. Personally, I'm a very optimistic person, so I don't see this, but I see this in people around me all the time. So the example we came up with was a coworker says you look great today, but you're thinking, oh no, I look so tired today. My hair is messy. Personally, I never have these problems, as you can tell.
Yeah, your hair's just always messy.
Yeah. But I know people in my life that are like this, where it's tough for them to take compliments. They discount the good things or the compliments people say, and they'll focus on the negative instead. So in this example, someone pays you a compliment, maybe even say thank you, but internally your monologue in this narrative is, no, I don't look that good. Like, my hair is messy, whatever it may be, right? So we have to drill down and figure out why that is. And the drill down here is, wow, when people give me a compliment, I actually don't take it very well. I'm not great at taking compliments. I internally doubt myself when someone gives it to me. I need to work on my self-esteem. So that's the drill down, is we ask why, we find the root cause, and it's really a self-esteem issue. So the reframe, I'm not actually discounting the positive, or maybe I am, but the reframe is, I just need to work on accepting compliments better. We found the issue. You have this toxic narrative. You drill down to the root cause, which is self-esteem. And one reframe is, I just need to take compliments better. So a quick action. We actually had 2 example actions for this one. The first one is the next time someone compliments me, I'm just going to thank them and smile. No internal narrative. If that narrative starts to crop up inside of you, just nip it in the bud. All you do is just smile, say thank you, and move on. Simple as that. Mm-hmm. The second action that we came up with was, this is more of a Tony Robbins one that you had thought about, and that was with how you just stand in general. And Tony Robbins talks a lot about, not slouching your shoulders, standing up straight, shoulders pulled back. And in general, just doing those things for like 30 seconds actually increases your mental state and your positivity by, I don't know, like a certain percent. That's massive. So in general, if you have an issue with your self-esteem, you can just focus on standing taller, not slouching your shoulders, having a more confident posture, and that's just going to help your well-being in general.
Yeah, I think it's just ultimately about controlling what you can control, right? Like you have the ability to kind of like not slouch your shoulders and sit right, even though both of us are sitting here slouching half the time.
Now I'm locked in. I forgot about this.
Yeah, I got to focus on it too. But so it's like, hey, when someone's like giving you a compliment, let's focus on our posture, right? Like a mental cue for yourself, because when you're able to do that and you have a better posture, there's direct scientific evidence around it affecting your mind. So
totally
control what you can control. We're not saying just like, oh, just be better at this, right? It's like just control the little things, and then you might find that your mindset follows suit.
Yeah, that's a great call out.
Cool. So moving on to the next one, which would be, that was discounting the positive. Now we're moving into mental filters, which is focusing only on the negatives and never on the positives. So a bit similar to the previous one, but the example here is, whatever.
They both have doctorates and they're best-selling authors, so I'm going to assume that they know more than I do.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes you just got to trust that they know what they're talking about. So the example here is, I suck at following a diet. I went 5 great days following my diet, but last night I stopped, got fast food on the way home from work, right? So the drill down here, this is probably more of an impactful reframe into positive thinking, more of an optimism reframe here. But when you drill down, it's like, hey, you're actually doing well overall. You had 5 good days, but you had a super stressful day at work and you felt like you needed a release, right? So typically stress, I'm very passionate about diet. The link between diet and mental health is absolutely massive. And so I think that it's like, hey, you did 5 great days, and now we're understanding, why did I go and stop at the fast food place, right? It's because I had a horrible day. I was stressed out, and it was a good release for me. So the reframe would be, the problem isn't my ability to follow the diet, but my reaction to the stressful day. I just need to find a different outlet, right? So similar to the last one, we have 2 different actions that you can take here just to give real examples. First action would be cut out the fast food. Take a route home going forward that doesn't drive by the fast food place, right? So there's certain things you could do, just like once you've just identified the fact that that's a crutch for you, if you can get used to driving a different way home, maybe it's not as easy to stop by there.
Well, I think the identification too is the stressful day, right? Because the stressful day was the trigger to the toxic trait there, or the toxic habit that you used. So maybe on these stressful days, just take a different route home and don't even put yourself in a position to be tempted by that fast food.
Yep. Yeah. And there's other things that you can do is try to find other outlets, right? Like there's a million articles on other outlets you can have of, like, honestly, like sometimes I just need to like scream into a pillow. It's like, nice. Whatever, man, no shame in it, right? Like it just is what it is. Like I just need to get it out, and it's just, that's okay, right? It's you can work on other outlets too. But the second action we came up with that's food related is, if you're struggling to cut out things entirely, which might not be reasonable, right? Like someone says, oh, I can never eat fast food with this advice, right? If you're struggling to cut it out entirely, one of the things that I am very passionate about too is just portion control or a budget limit. Like, okay, like if I'm having a tough day and I feel like I need this release, I'm only allowed to spend $5, and I can't get like the cupcake or whatever, but I can get like just a wrap at a fast food store.
Fast food guys. What fast food chain sells cupcakes, Roger?
I don't know, dude. I try not to go anywhere with a drive-through window.
Yeah, I was gonna
friend
say,
taught me that trick.
Spoken like a guy who hasn't been to fast food in, I don't know, 10 years.
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah. One of my friends told me that sort of mantra many years ago, and I've largely tried to follow it since. But it doesn't mean I don't have like a donut every once in a while. If the kids bring home a donut from a party or whatever, I don't know. Pizza, what do kids eat?
I don't know. I don't know if kids. You're gonna have to tell me on that. Legos, they probably eat, right? Silly putty.
Yeah, it's a mess. All right. So yeah, I think that the biggest thing is just identifying there that you did not go to the fast food place just because you're horrible at following your diet. Like you can't use it as an excuse to just now bail out of your whole diet entirely and spiral out of control, right? It's a simple thing. Once you drill down, let's focus on why that exactly happened and work on that and continue the good days.
Yeah, and in this example, there were 5 good days. So, you went 6 days, 5 of them are great. 1 you had a slip up. So don't discount how well you were doing just with 1 slip up. And it's not because you suck at following a diet. Again, like you said, the drill down is just, it was a reaction to a stressful day. So that's kind of what we're trying to get across with all these examples. Is the biggest piece is going from vague narratives, I suck at following a diet, to drilling down to very specific, which is, I just have a bad reaction to stressful days, which is the problem I need to solve.
Yep, exactly.
So that brings us to the last one. And this is one that I think is like super toxic and I see all the time, especially in sports, which is should statements. Always feeling, when you think about what a should statement really is, it's always feeling like you failed to live up to the expectations of what you should do in a situation. And this is so true in sports where we have a goal that we want to achieve coming into a tournament or a match or an event. I should have done X and I didn't, and so the example we came up with here was I shouldn't have blown that close game. You were in a tight game. It was 19-19. You thought you should have won it. You shouldn't have blown the game, but you did. And that's just such a toxic narrative. You can think about that all week. Like if you have a tournament on a Saturday, you have all week until the next Saturday for your next one. That can be such a negative thing in your mind. Like, God, I shouldn't have blown that game on Monday. Wednesday, you're at the gym. God, I shouldn't have blown that game. And you're thinking about it all week. But really, we have to drill down, right? So the drill down is we think about these clutch situations, the pressure moments of the game when it is winning time. This drill down was I'm putting so much pressure on myself to win because I want to win so freaking badly. And now I'm getting tight in these clutch moments because I want to win so badly and I'm feeling pressure and maybe I'm thinking a lot, right? So it's not just this vague thing, I shouldn't have blown it. Now we've drilled down, I'm just putting a lot of pressure on myself. And the reframe was we actually used you as an example on this one because this was something that maybe you had struggled with in the past, and after you had kids, all this pressure and weight seemed to disperse, right? So the reframe is for Roger specifically. This is just a game in the grand scheme of things. This isn't life or death. I've made humans. That's crazy. I've made humans, right? Yeah. So by doing this reframe, it's not just I shouldn't have blown that close game. The reframe is now, it's just a game in the grand scheme of things, right? And so the action, when I get into the situation next time, I'm going to think about my kids, be grateful to be playing this game that I love.
Yeah, and I think you're just putting things into perspective a little bit, right? And it did feel like when I was younger, any time I lost, it was just killer, right? So every time I would go into those clutch moments, I would put so much pressure on myself because it meant so much to me. And then I would get frustrated because I feel like some of the other people I'd playing against just didn't care anywhere near on the level that I did. Mm-hmm. I was like, they just don't care. And so they don't deserve it like I deserve it, right? Like, and all those toxic narratives happening in my head. And later on in life, sort of realized, that's actually like a really good trait. It's a really good trait. I'm sure a lot of people know people that just like don't seem to care. Mm-hmm. And they just beat you. And it's like, why? Like, it's so frustrating, right? It's like, but it's because they don't have that mental pressure. And so it's an actual mental strategy. Yeah, they're able to perform in that moment because they're just grateful to be there, just having fun, grateful to be there. Like, it's just a different view on that moment than the pressure I need to win this game.
Mm-hmm. And, we could go on this topic for so long, and we probably will do a podcast about this in the future. But if we
Yeah.
just quickly, like, let's take it from the other person's perspective, where they are one of these people that is just super relaxed in the court. They don't really care. They're just there to have fun. And they're also blowing these tough games. And like, oh, I shouldn't have blown that game. You know, they might have the opposite problem, where if they drill down, it's like, oh, wait, I'm actually just not putting enough work in the week leading up to the tournament. I'm super relaxed all the time. I'm not training as hard as I need to be. If I had trained a little bit harder, I would have had maybe a little bit more stamina when that game was at 2020 or 2019, right? So the drill down is different for every single person, every single problem you're going with, and that's the biggest piece of it.
Yeah, great point. Love that. Yeah, it's just, and we're trying to give generalized examples to illustrate these different points of how this happens to everyone every day. Mm-hmm. But you know, I think you have to apply it, which is our Prostrat for the day. You know, our Prostrat, of when we talk about how, like, what we want our listeners to work on for the week. You know, applying it is still understanding how to use these in your unique circumstances. So you want to jump right into the Prostrat? That's all our examples. Some good examples.
Yeah, so we'll just go through them again really quick. Again, all or nothing thinking, and you know, maybe think as we're going through these again, just quickly. If you do any of these in your life, if you have any of these narrative forms that come through on a daily basis for you, that's all or nothing thinking, which is seeing situations in absolute terms. Blaming, attributing complex problems to a single cause. Catastrophizing, always imagining the worst thing that can happen in any situation. Discounting the positive, ignoring or discounting the good things that happen to you. Mental filters, focusing only on the negatives and never the positives. And lastly, should statements, which is always feeling like you failed to live up to the expectations of what you should do in a situation. Okay, so our Prostrat, we want you guys to go through this 4-step process. So identify a negative narrative that you're experiencing in your personal life. You're struggling at work. You're having trouble with your boss, sports performance. You're overweight. You're in a toxic relationship, whatever it may be. Everyone that goes through these every single day. Identify one of them. And then we want you to try this 4-step process. Again, identify what the narrative is. What are you telling yourself about this thing in your life? Drill down to the root cause. Ask yourself why over and over and over again until you find the root cause. Like, why am I having this problem? Okay, X reason. Okay, why is that true? Okay, X reason. Okay, why is that true? And keep going down until you find the actual root cause. And that's probably the toughest part of this, is really being open with yourself on drilling down to what the root cause is. Once you find the root cause, reframe that narrative. So if it is that you are just putting too much pressure on yourself, reframe that. I need to just put things in better perspective. And then lastly, take action on the root cause you've identified. So you've reframed it. Now take action, and take action quickly. So maybe you can do it in the same day. Maybe you can do it 30 minutes after you complete this exercise. Maybe it's the next day when it comes up. But the key part is taking action on that you've identified.
Yeah, and then I would say email us if you have questions, right? We created the netgainspodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's netgainspodcast@gmail.com. If you have questions, or you just want to
@gmail.com.
Yes. If you have any questions, or you want to just a little help walking through it, we will do our best to answer what we can, and if not, we may sort of bring up certain examples on the podcast in subsequent weeks. So, just please make sure to censor names, if you want, and let us know if you don't want us to bring up kind of like any of your name on the podcast. And then,
Sweet.
Yeah.
You want to take it? No, go for it.
You put a motivational quote on Slack every day as your away message. So
do, yeah.
I feel like you have to read the motivational
on the
quote.
whiteboard there too.
You do.
Yeah.
Love
So to kind of close out the episode, we like a motivational quote that just kind of summarizes what the actual pod was about. This one is from absolute GOAT status, Winston Churchill, beast. The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. Winston Churchill, baby. Let's go.
I love that quote. So good.
That's a good one. On a quick side note, if you've ever, Winston Churchill was so famous for these grand speeches he would give in Parliament when, you know, it was like they were in war, it was World War II, and he would give these like passionate speeches. Dude, I've listened to one on YouTube. It's so bad. He has this like, have you ever listened to him? Mm-mm. Dude, he has this way of speaking.
No, I
like,
will now.
Oh my God. It's like, we need to make sure that we're dialed in on the war and everyone needs to be going in the same direction. And it's, I swear to God, it's just like this monotone, like he never raises or lowers his voice. And it's like, I don't know. I know he's like a brilliant guy and all that, but God, like, where was Tony Robbins to teach this guy in public speaking back in the day?
Horrible presentation. Yeah. I got to check it. I definitely will check that out now. It's so funny how like things in the past seem incredible, and then later on in life or later on in generations, we look back like, oh my God, that's like so dumb or so bad.
Yeah. Actually, quick example of that too is, I know we got to get off this pod, but I'm watching Fast and Furious right now. I never watched them, and I'm going back and watching them. And dude, they're so corny. These like these movies that were made in 2001, 2003. It's like, oh my God, you know, people thought this was cool 20 years ago.
I want to rewatch that. Somebody else just told me it was the greatest series of all time. And I was like, come on, man.
It's so cheesy and terrible, but it's also like kind of good too at the same time.
When I was a kid and the first one came out, I remember having like the little, I don't know if they were like Hot Wheels cars or whatever of the cars they drove.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good times, man. Good times.
Sweet.
All right,
So
well,
anyway, you want to, no, I'm going to take it. We're super grateful for everybody that listened. Episode 1. Hopefully it came out good. It was our third attempt trying to do this with a litany of technical difficulties. But we got there, and I hope this helped at least somebody out in terms of what we talked about. If it did, feel free to email us or whatever it may be, and we'd love to hear about it. And we will see you on the next episode, episode 2. You! I literally said, don't start the podcast because I want to get some water.
All right, go ahead and go get some water.
And I don't even have my AirPods plugged in, so I don't know why. All right. Eat your Chipotle.
Dude,
You didn't even eat the Chipotle yet?
I ate one of the 2 burritos.
You got 2 burritos?
Yeah, I got 2 burritos.
God.
What's your Chipotle go-to?
Oh, dude, easy. You got to go. Well, actually, you got 2 go-tos. But when I want like a little like sweet treat, I'll do a bowl, get chips on the side, and then you dip the chips in the bowl and eat all the chips. And then whatever's left, you just like, you know, rattle it off. But a good like double chicken burrito, getting the guac in there, cheese, extra meat, extra beans, extra rice. Oh, yeah.
Ready? You ready for my burrito? Chicken, rice, lettuce, burrito shell.
No beans?
That's all you need. I don't do beans.
No guac?
Guac, anything. No.
No cheese?
Just that guy. I might be a serial killer.
Yeah, well, that's why you're having 2 burritos, because they're baby burritos.
They are baby burritos.
At least, are you ordering extra rice or just the regular portion of rice?
I ordered double chicken, but when you order on the like the app or whatever, they just like always skimp you. You get half the size of the burrito than when you're in person. It's so annoying.
Well, that's why when you order online, you have to order extra. Like extra rice, extra beans, and then they'll give you like a normal size portion. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Yeah, food for thought.
Dude, so you know what the world needs right now? More white guys starting podcasts.
Well, do I have a podcast for you?
I read something that like 30% of all podcasts in the last year have failed. Like out of everything that existed in the podcast universe, 30% of them all went offline. So it has never been a worse time to start a podcast.
Can you explain that again? Like 30% of podcasts that were started last year, or 30% of all podcasts ever?
I don't know. It's 25% don't get past episode 1.
Okay.
So, bro, if we get to episode 2, we are crushing it.
You know, I was actually going to say, man, if that's a 70% keep going rate, that's pretty good. I mean, we have a 70% chance of doing okay. I mean, I guess just doing the podcast.
With more than 500,000 podcasts turned out yearly, only 20% survive.
Only 20% survive.
90% of podcasts don't publish more than 3 episodes.
Okay.
We just got to get past episode 3, and we are top 10%, baby.
We have the topics. I'm looking at a list of topics right now. So, all right, now I'm getting cold feet.
Shut up. It feels so good. Okay, all that work.
No S.
All right, ready on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Feels so good.
Oh, man. I am joined by my co-host here, Mr. Frank Field, also my son, who you can find at FrankFieldIV on Instagram, or working at Digital Position, or competing on the AVP Pro Beach Volleyball Tour.
Before we go into that, though, I feel like I should just say I'm not actually Roger's son. He has 3 kids, but I'm not one of them. Although maybe at this point I might be a 4th kid.
You call me daddy, though.
All right. Anyway, what we're talking about today is narrative forming and reframing, as Roger spits up on himself. Narrative forming and reframing.
But it's probably like 100 before I would just die. I don't know.
No. In a day?
It's so much harder than you think.
No.
So
Have you ever
much harder than
done? Have you ever done like a Murph workout?
Yeah, I did Murph.
Yeah. So in the Murph, it's 100 pull-ups, and that's just like an hour workout with push-ups and with squats and with a run involved. So if you're only
true. It's like a
focusing on
multi-mile
pull-ups, you
run.
could probably hit, I don't know, like 500 in a day. I bet I could do
That's
500
true.
in a day.
All right, go ahead.
Right now, I got a pull-up bar right here.
No, I would love to see you do 500 pull-ups in a day.
I almost knock over my lamp.
You have one of those? You seem like the kind of guy that would put it up in your door, and then go to use it, and it would just fall, and you would fall.
I worry about it every time, actually.
I just want to just get into it, and I felt a little bit off when we first started, a little bit of nerves.
Dude,
I felt like a little bit.
Our intro was so bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's
we both
fine.
stumbled. You stumbled over words, and I was like, "What an idiot!" And then, literally, the first thing I said, I'm just like, and in this case, one of those problems could be hitting snooze on the alarm. So if you hit snooze twice, that's 15 minutes. So you've automatically lost 15 minutes on your morning right there. So
Snoozing
drilling
is
down,
5 minutes, by the way.
I think mine is 7.
7 plus 7 is 14, first of all.
I know. I was rounding up.
But still, who has a 7-minute snooze?
Well, you have an Android, so you don't even have real world experience, basically. You're living
What are
in
you
a
talking
little
about?
silo with an Android.
Oh my God. iPhones are just absolute trash.